Coming up on the Making Waves VO podcast.
That is one of the changes, is the type of read they want. The bigger change that I've seen, which is disheartening, is that so many promos are not using talent anymore. They're using a string of sound bites. And if they do need to intersperse a little story in it, they're using cards.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves. Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
This is the Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobby Maxwell.
Welcome to the Making Waves VO podcast, presented by Full Compass and FullCompass.com.
We know VO.
Hey, Bobby, how are you?
Doing good. Doing good. It's been a good week. How about you?
Yeah, May has been gangbusters, and the summertime is going to be hot. People are going to be traveling. There's going to be a lot of blockbuster entertainment on our streaming services and on television. And what a perfect segue into our guest, because these things need promotion. And we have a legendary promo director and coach. Jodi Gottlieb is with us. Jodi, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me. I love what you guys are doing with this podcast.
Thanks. We love it too.
We're happy to have you, and we're going to talk about promos and other genres today, but promo is kind of what brought you into the voiceover world, right?
It is. I'm a writer-producer, and at the time I was working at CBS, and so many of the people I hired asked me to come and speak to their workout groups, their talent workout groups. They would get guest directors in. So I was doing that for a little while. And one day I was sitting and having lunch with an agent, and she was telling me that she's been getting great feedback on what I do in these workshops. And she looked at me like, I can't believe I hadn't thought of this. She said, "Why don't you do this for yourself?" And I thought, oh, okay. Okay. So while I was still working full time as a writer producer, I started doing workshops at night, and they filled up fast.
So you're like an OG of the workshops, aren't you?
Yeah, it goes back a long way. I even designed my own that included a timing workshop for promos that nobody else is doing. So that was good. And after a while, I realized, oh my gosh, I love coaching. I love workshops. So I changed the balance of my career. I started coaching more and writing and producing less. And now it's, I would say 90% is coaching and 10% is consulting. I'm air quoting consulting. So I've been doing this since can I say it? The early 90s?
You can
Sure.
say it.
You just did.
I just did. I've been around a long time. I've been in the business. I've been a buyer. I've never been a seller, never been an agent. But I know what producers are listening for. I am one. I know what I'm listening for.
And you were a director at CBS and the other networks.
Yes, I've worked at almost all of the networks, including, HBO and TBS. And I think I did a thing for Lifetime. A bunch of them. But yeah, I was at CBS for a very long time. And then I went to NBC, and then I started getting requests from production companies. So yeah, it's been a long, storied career. I've got stories about that.
Oh, I'm sure you
Ooh.
do. I wanted to ask you about the modern day landscape of promo work, because when you got into it in the early 90s, promo was huge. You had all these big voice announcers, and that sound was in vogue, and everybody was doing the promos and like this and tonight on CBS. And there's still some degree of that. But how's the landscape changed in terms of voiceover style and the amount of promo work that's out there?
Oh, Kevin, I'm so glad you asked that question. Can I go in a little rant here?
You can.
You
Go
can.
for it. We'll get some popcorn.
Well, I have to remember that back in the 90s, I was a commercial producer, and the person who got me into promos was Ernie Anderson.
On the Love
Legend.
Boat.
Yeah.
And he called me up one day and he said, I won't quote him exactly because it's a clean podcast, but he said, "Do you write?" And I said, "Yeah, okay." And he got me a job at a production company that he voiced a lot of work for so that I was able to put together a demo. From there, I went to CBS.
Oh.
So Ernie, my mentor, he taught me so much about that, but that's the style we were doing back in the 90s. The Love Boat. That was Ernie.
That was
So
it.
we were doing that, and I was working with Chuck Riley and Mark Elliott and a million other Gary Owens, a million people. Okay, fast forward to 2024. No, we're going to go back a little way. 2017, I think. All the specs that I was seeing were specifically like you see on commercials, non-announcer. And okay, that's interesting. Completely different promo sound. Now they are, so fast forward to today, and what I'm seeing on specs is unpolished, like a conversation. And, to try to get it, promos are very tightly timed. So you don't have the ability the flexibility as you do in commercials to hem and haw and search for words. It is quick, it is timed. Sometimes you get 3 seconds to speak a line that really takes 6. So asking for that dreaded C word, conversational, which there is no such thing. You put a mic in front of somebody and it's not how they really talk.
Right.
I prefer to call it the non-announce read. We know what that is, right? We're not going back to the 90s. That is one of the changes, is the type of read they want. The bigger change that I've seen, which is disheartening, is that so many promos are not using talent anymore. They're using a string of sound bites. And if they do need to intersperse a little story in it, they're using cards.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't really help if, like me, you leave the room, so you only hear what's going on, and I'm not reading the cards, but sometimes even the sound bites they string together don't really tell a compelling story. And that's been going on for a while. I did notice many, many years ago, trailers started doing that and promos followed. So the state of the promo world right now is challenging. We'll use that word.
Hang around. We'll be back shortly.
Hello, this is Rebecca Lee. Psych, y'all, let me stop playing. It's me, Rebecca Lee. You're listening to the Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin and Bobby.
As a voice actor, you want to focus on what's important, right? Like pulling off the perfect read. You don't want to stress about tech stuff. That's why Full Compass is in your corner. With 50 years experience in pro audio, Full Compass has everything we voice actors need. Mics, headphones, monitors, mixers, interfaces, DAWs, all the goodies. And their certified product experts help with everything they sell. Plus, you can get free same-day shipping, flexible financing, and a low price guarantee. See it all at fullcompass.com. Fullcompass.com. They know VO.
Now back to the podcast.
Yeah.
Now I wonder if it'll change, because I've been seeing in commercial auditions the word announcer more in the past 6 months or so, maybe a year, and it's been a subject on some of the social media, the voiceover pages that they're seeing it more, and not casting people, but the producers and directors are accepting it more. So do you think promo's going to come back around?
I'm glad you asked that question. That was perfect timing. I was just about to go into that. I do see it turning around. Right now, I believe all their decisions are based on their budget. Television and streaming services in particular, but broadcast television, for instance, they're going through some changes. They not quite settled in, and they're very cost conscious. And the first thing they cut is voiceover talent. I understand that, but I do think it's going to come back because, Bobby, what you said, I am seeing not a lot of specs with announcer in it, but more than I had been in the last 5 years.
Yes.
In fact, I see a lot of specs that say they want the first read to be that dreaded C word, and the second read more announcery. I also know the experience. I have this same story told to me over and over and over again. People book jobs based on their original reads, that conversational read or so-called, and they get into the session and they do what they were hired to do, that read, and they're directed into a bigger, more announcery read.
Amen.
Yeah.
So glad you said that.
I hear that story over and over and over again, which I just have to laugh. I mean, if that's what you want, that you should ask for that. I don't know the reason for that, but maybe, I don't know. I'm not going to speculate. But yeah, that's happening a lot. Bobby, in answer to your question, I do see it turning around, just not as fast as we wanted to.
Okay.
And I'm sure your opinion's going to be skewed on this next question, but do you think television programming and these streaming services programming, they are suffering from the lack of VO when they are just stringing the sound bites together?
Well, like you said, I am biased. Yes, I do think it is suffering. The millions of promos that I've seen have done that don't really tell me the story, don't really get me interested in what's going on. If something sort of pokes at me, I'll look it up. I shouldn't have to do that. It should all be in the promo. The idea of a promo is to have your audience say, "Ooh, what happens next?" and tune in. My reaction as just an audience member doesn't really do that anymore. So yes, I am biased, but I do think they are suffering, not totally from that, but I think that's a part of it.
To me, it's commensurate with a cake. Like the cake is there, it's the structure, just like the promo with just the sound bites thrown together there. But it's missing the icing. And the icing is one of the biggest things that makes me want to take a bite out of the cake, commensurate with the VO, even if it's just a tag, but just an intriguing voice that comes on there at the end. Oh, this story, this story, this story. Oh, and then tonight at 8 on CBS, check it out. I need that. I want that frosting, Jodi.
I agree with you, and now I want cake.
I was going to say the same thing. But you hit on something a few minutes ago. You said if you're busy and you don't hear it, if it's just in print, we're all busier these days, so there's a chance we are not going to see what's on the screen. I didn't like it at all when trailers had nothing. I mean, even if they're going to throw me at the very end, starts Friday, blah, blah. I'd rather have that because I may not have my face looking at the TV.
Absolutely. Especially these days, everybody is multitasking.
Mm-hmm.
We're all sitting there. I don't know many people who sit down and watch television. I mean, even I'm guilty of that, where I'll sit down and I'll put on something I want to see. And I'm still picking up my iPad.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not proud of this, but it's
checking on those email.
exactly, especially in our business where everything's 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be watching something and the email will come in. This is due in an hour. Can you coach me? And so I have to pause what I'm watching and get on it.
This is John Malone coming to you straight from the Malone Zone. And you've got the best VO podcast in the whole internet right here. The Making Waves VO Podcast with Kevin and Bobby. Boy, are you lucky.
So let's talk about that a second. So among your service offerings is audition direction. That's what you're referring to. So folks can call you up and they can say, "Hey, Jodi, I've got an audition in an hour. Do you have time to direct me on it?"
That's exactly how it happens.
Okay. Most of the time. And are you seeing a lot of people taking advantage of that service, and you're getting the rewards down the road? "Hey, Jodi, when you coached me up on that audition, I booked it." These kinds of things?
I am seeing that. I've had the auditions that I've directed be lifted and put on air rather than re-record them. I love those.
Wow.
Oh, that's the
No,
best.
and the best, and the talent, of course, gets a session fee. And I get email or text saying, I booked it. So that's always wonderful. And then for the little bit that I go on social media, I see people posting the final product, and that's always fun to hear.
So you work in promo, commercial, and narration with all these coachings. What are you working usually with in terms of narration? Is it like in-show stuff, or is it business narration?
I do a little business narration. It's mostly in-show or documentaries. I don't do a lot of medical narration, only because I can't say the words.
Right.
If I can't say it, well, it's going to be trouble. But in-show, documentaries, industrials, internal things. I don't do e-learning as such. Yeah, I think that covers it. Because I have actually directed shows, in-show narration for shows. So I bring that experience to that.
Yeah, that's a tough one. You just have to really be a good storyteller, but you also have to pull back so you're not the focus, right? In show.
Yes, you have to. Well, let me say this. It depends. In show, you really want to be like the backup singer pointing to what's going on screen. You also have to have a neutral take on it for the recaps and the opening of each act, saying, well, this happened in the last act, now we're going to see what happens in this act, kind of thing. But every now and then, well, not so much on in-show, but more on documentaries, sometimes they actually want you to have a point of view. And people have a hard time tapping into that. So that's where I'm the most helpful to them.
Kind of piggybacking on those thoughts right there, what are some general thoughts and ideas about telling a compelling story in show or a documentary?
Oh, wow, that's a wide-reaching question.
It is wide. It is, but we have a lot of our listeners that are just up and coming, and they want to just sharpen their skills, and just some broad stroke thoughts on compelling story. Obviously it's going to be connection with the script, these kinds of things, but I just wanted to hear it from your perspective.
Yeah, connection is the most important thing. I have to believe that you believe the story you're telling. In most cases, depending on what it is, you want to stay neutral, but you still want to be authentic. That's the most important thing. Be yourself. Long time ago, I was watching a biography of somebody, and the announcer, the voiceover talent, got in the way of the story because it was a woman and she was so intrigued, she was acting the words. And but I was so distracted by how she was telling the story that I missed most of the story. So the important thing, and everybody's doing it well these days, is don't get in the way of the story. Unless, of course, you're asked to have a point of view. That becomes a whole different thing.
Hi, this is Nazia Chaudhry. You're listening to the Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin and Bobby.
I remember when Kevin and I were coached by you for, I don't know how many sessions we did, but one of the things that stood out, we would read a script for you. Occasionally, not all the time, you'd say, "Do you watch this show?" And it's like, no. And it's like, I can tell. So I mean, I've always wanted to do promo more than I do, but I think that's so huge. You've got to be familiar with what you're talking about to be comfortable talking about it.
You do, absolutely. We were working with scripts for shows that were on air, so that question was legitimate. However, you're often going to be asked to introduce a show, to launch a new show, which of course you cannot have seen because it hasn't been on yet. But if you take 5 minutes and Google the show, you'll see pictures. The least you will get is a press release. So you can find out who's in it, you can find out what the story is, and just at least know what's going on. Launching shows are very difficult because you haven't had a chance to see it and you don't know what kind of music, and you can't always tell from the copy whether it's comedy or drama or dramedy or, a miniseries. You can't always tell. So that's why now, many years, 20 years ago, that wasn't an option to Google something. But these days, there's no excuse.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. Jodi, I remember, when Bobby reminded me when we were coaching with you, we did those handful of sessions together. I remember I had an audition later in the day. Now, it was for GE, but it was tied in with Canada's national soccer team. So it kind of it had a promo-y vibe to it. And I don't know if I ever told you, but I booked that national spot shortly after we got off the horn that day. And I did the audition. Yeah, and I remember doing the audition now. Now it's all coming back to me. I remember doing the audition, and I remember some of the stuff that you had said in the session ringing in my head. And I'm like, okay, Kev, take it here. Take it here. Be calm, be cool, be chill. No need to overdo this. Don't get in the way. Those kinds of things. So I love coaching in general. I love the art of what we do and the concept. If we stop getting better, we'll stop being good because everybody else is getting better. We've got to get better all the time.
Always. I worked with a man. I'm so glad to hear it. Thank you for telling me that story. I'm so happy you booked that.
Yeah.
I worked with a man for several years on a weekly basis. And then I finally moved to him. I said, you know what? I'm just sitting here handing you scripts. There's not much I can do for you. And he said, well, no, then let's move it to every other week. I said, fine. And after a while, months went by and I said, you're wasting your money. You're spending money and there's nothing else I can give you. He was that good.
Oh, okay.
And
I was wondering if it was the opposite.
No, he was that good. He was that good. He was that good. And he was booking like crazy. And I just felt bad for taking his money when he didn't need me. And he said, do you think Roger Federer fired his coach after he won a major?
That's a good point.
I said, okay, well, send me more money. Yeah, let's keep on.
Now, is that a name you would mind sharing?
I'd rather get permission. Yeah.
Yeah, understand. But that's good to hear that, it's somebody that's working and, is prolific apparently in the promo world.
Yeah. I'm fine with telling a story. I just keep my clients confidential.
Much respect.
I just respect them too much. I'm not going to tell a story on them.
You don't want to miss what's next. Making Waves returns momentarily.
This is the Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobby Maxwell. I'm Chris McCloy, and they didn't pay me a dime to say this. Why am I doing this for free?
Hang on a sec. I'll talk to my agent.
Oh, Bobby, you know vacation season is upon us. A lot of people are going to be going on vacation, and a lot of us voice actors need to take travel gear with us. And good thing our friends at Full Compass have everything you need for traveling, like the iRig. Bobby, you know about the iRig, right?
I do know about the iRig, but I am an Android person. But you have an iPhone, right?
Yes, I have an iPhone, and a lot of people do have an iPhone. And if you go to fullcompass.com, just go into their search and just type in iRig, all one word, and all the products come up. And you're going to see all the different varieties of iRig things they have, which are great for traveling. They're compact, they're portable, they provide you with good quality sound. If you need something small and compact and sometimes emergency situations, they're going to have it for you at Full Compass.
Yeah, speaking of compact, I use the Focusrite for the road, the Scarlet, and it's just so tiny. I can put all of my gear in just a little carry-on case that I kind of shove underneath my feet on the plane. So they have the Scarlet, they have the 2i2, the 3i3. I mean, they've got just about every Focusrite product you can imagine at Full Compass.
I love the Focusrite myself because, like you said, it's compact and it is my go-to interface to take with me when I'm traveling. But if you're not traveling and you're more concerned about, hey, what are some long-term solutions for my sound, Kev? I'll tell you, Auralex products. Auralex are, I think they're the best, right?
Yeah, they are really good.
There are some other comparable products for treating sound. And now when we're talking about Auralex products, we're not talking about blocking out sound so much, but absorbing that echo sound that you might get in an untreated space. And here's the good news. For a limited time, Full Compass has some Auralex products on sale. So again, go to the search bar in the Full Compass page and type in Auralex. Let me do it right now so I can do it along with you. Auralex, Auralex. And all these wonderful products come up, pages and pages of wonderful products. And some of them, Bobby, are on sale.
Ooh. Well, you know, Full Compass always has the low price guarantee, so that's always a great thing. They have free shipping on anything over $49, which if you're getting a whole road gear kit, you know, that's covered right there. And they always have their friendly, free expert assistance at Full Compass.
Call them at 1-800-356-5844 and talk to a sales consultant.
Or go to fullcompass.com.
Full Compass, fullcompass.com.
We know VO. And now back to making waves. So as far as getting this type of work, and a lot of our listeners are going to be able to feel this question. I mean, most of those jobs, the promos, in-show narration, trailers, the jobs are won through 3 or 4 of the top agents. But those agents have so many on their roster, and I mean, it's so deep. And if you are truly good and you have the passion, what is another way that we can get that work? Or the network, since you worked for a handful of them, are they only going to those agents?
Well, yes, there are a handful of agents that have promo departments, and they have big rosters, like you said. However, these days, and this has been happening for a little while as well, most of the trailers and promos are coming through managers. And if you're in a position to hire a manager, if you really, really, really want to do promo and you're in a position to hire a manager, that's the way to go.
Meaning they would take a percentage of your work, correct? Okay.
In addition to your agent, they take another percentage. And that's if they will have you.
Right. So
because they want to keep their roster small.
It's a screening process, I see.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you mentioned it like that, Jodi, that if you want to hire a manager, because not everybody understands that concept that, hey, they're going to get 10% of what you earn, right?
Right.
No matter what they bring you.
Right. People forget that agents and managers work for the talent, not the other way around.
Mm-hmm. Now let's talk about, so when you're talking about the trailer and the promo world and the big ones, Helsner, Jason Marks, Cope, and
ACM.
Yep. And when you're talking about the 10%, now I know ACM's model, but with Cope, Helsner, and Marks, are they getting, like, I don't know if we can talk about this with confirmation or be confirmed with our thoughts, but are they getting 10% of everything or just certain genres, or do you know?
I think the business models of each place vary, and also it varies depending on the deal that you strike.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So there's no set answer to that.
Okay.
I've heard all kinds of things, and I can't confirm anything because that's really not my business.
Right.
There's one male talent that does a lot of promo and I think trailer, who's been kind of on social media lately. I'm not going to mention any names, but I know that he has multiple agents, and I think he has multiple managers. And I'm just wondering how that works, because the whole thing is that he's having an issue with one of them getting paid. So is that common? Because when I first saw that he had that, I was like, how does that work? I mean,
Multiple agents, yes. People have several agents.
I'm talking about like L.A. or New York agents, yeah.
You mean like several LA agents?
Mm-hmm. Or one in L.A. and one in New York, yeah.
Well, that one in LA and one in New York, if they do different things. For instance, if they're in an agency in LA that does not have a promo department, they certainly can get a New York agent that does, or vice versa. People do have multiple agents, but you're not going to get two agents in LA or New York that do the same thing. That just doesn't make sense. And I've never heard of anybody have multiple managers. It doesn't seem cost effective.
Yeah, doesn't.
It doesn't, unless you're booking like crazy. And I know exactly who Bobby is talking about. And I was going to take a quick peek to see if I saw this individual on multiple. Bobby, I know who you're talking about. And I believe this individual went, no, he's there on both. Yeah.
Managers?
Yep. I'm seeing this individual with ACM and also with, bear with me 1 second.
I mean, I know he does a lot of work, and that's probably kind of an exception in this case.
Yeah, for sure. Just saw confirmation. This individual is on 2 of the big management rosters we were just talking about. They are currently listed, but who knows? Maybe they're getting promo work from one, trailer work from another.
Yeah.
But could you explain that? Could that be the possibility, or could they cross pollinate in both of those genres, Jodi?
I have to say I don't have an answer to that because I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, and like you said, it doesn't sound like it's cost effective unless they are booking like crazy. And they could be,
Even then, can you imagine it? Okay, let's say, we'll pick a number. Let's say you're making $100,000 a year and you have an agent and 2 managers. You're giving away a minimum of 30% of your business.
Yeah.
Wow.
That does not sound like a great return on investment.
Yeah.
And you don't know, what's ahead. You may get something from this one manager, and who's not to say that the other one all of a sudden comes across an opportunity, and can you pitch because they have the other manager? It's just a weird situation.
It does sound, it's unusual. I've never heard of it before. I am curious about how that works.
Yeah.
If you find out, let me know.
And it brings back to mind something. So we're going way back, Jodi. This is just a fun, organic conversation, isn't it? So, Jodi, have you ever been trolled in your voiceover career, more specifically in the last few years, by anybody named Sabrina Farrows?
No.
Like no random emails, no, weird emails in the middle of the night saying, trashing you or questioning your work ethic or anything like that. Okay. Well, I have, and many voice actors in the community have, and some of us have done research on who we think this Sabrina Farrow's person is, because it's mean-spirited stuff. Sometimes it's racist. Sometimes it's anti-Semitic. It's all kinds of stuff. And we think we kind of know who it was in the voiceover industry. Now, one of the messages I got said that ex-voice actor was getting free representation from one of the management companies just so the management company could say they were repping ex-talent. Now, I wonder if that's the case.
I cannot believe that any of these managers, reputable managers that we mentioned, would need to do that.
I don't know.
It does not, that does not make sense.
But I am seeing this individual on 2 management rosters currently.
Yeah. And like you said at the beginning, it a lot of times depends on the deal that you worked out with that person. Or
it's true. Like you said, it's possible that one manager does promos and the other trailer or narration or animation. Maybe that's possible. Maybe for commercials. Maybe one of the managers doesn't deal in a genre at all and the other one does. So I can see where it might be possible. But like I said, I've never heard of that before. So definitely we're going to stop recording at some point.
We're going to exchange these names.
We're all chomping at the bit.
Now, wouldn't it be funny if the name you mentioned is the same one I mentioned?
It would be that head-blowing meme.
Yeah.
Wow. We would have connected the dots, Jodi. And speaking of which, can you tell us what is connecting the dots? What are you doing with connecting the dots?
Connect the Dots is an online workshop. I have partnered up with one of my clients, Tina Zaremba, who is a genius at marketing and self-promotion.
Kevin and I were with Tina in a workshop in New York. Gosh, 5 years ago, Kev?
Yeah, I think so.
And I remember when she read. She's very talented. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Very talented. And she is just brilliant at getting her own work. So I teamed up, and over the years, a lot of my clients were asking me some of the questions you were. How do you go about this? How do you go about this? So I asked Tina, I said, why don't we pool our resources? And we created this Connect the Dots workshop that we do online. We have one coming up in June, a 4-week workshop. And for each 2-hour session, we connect with ourselves. I guide you to connect to the copy that I provide. And then we talk about connecting to the outside world. How do you connect to potential clients? So it's not only about connecting to the reads, which is obviously of vital importance, but how do you do outreach? Because that's a thing that everybody has a problem with. Everybody has a problem with. Now, I've never heard anybody say, "Oh, I really enjoy that." Nobody says that. But we give them very specific things to do and how to do it. We're also available, like for auditions and to read emails and edit down what you're saying, things like that.
So is this a one-on-one workshop, or do you have like a group of 12? Or?
It's a group. It's a group. It's a limited number. In June, we're doing a 4-week, and then we follow that with Connect the Dots Pro, which is a 3-month. We do it twice a month for 3 months. So I guess that's 6 weeks over 3 months, where we are totally available. We do office hours online. I do auditions. I did one. I'm in the middle of Pro right now, and I did an audition this morning. And Tina meets one-on-one to get very specific on what your outreach is. So we individualize programs for each person, and we limit Pro to 10 people. The 4-week we limit it to 12.
And do you provide those scripts when you're reading?
Yes, I
Okay.
do. Yes, I do. But for pro, yes, I provide scripts, but we also encourage people, if there's something that you want to try, let's say you heard something, a commercial or narration or promo, you heard something, it's like, oh, I could do that. Transcribe it, send it to us, and let's see. Let's see if you really can do it. The other thing that we do is several people don't contact me for auditions, but they will bring an audition, curious about, I really thought I nailed this, but I didn't get the job. Okay, play the audition. Let's see what happens. And we can usually pinpoint, I can't say usually anymore. Those days have changed. I was going to say, can usually pinpoint what happened. But these days, there's no telling. There is no way to know why. I've listened to these auditions and like, wow, those were great reads. They were authentic. It was connected. You were talking just like you. It was great. And it hit every spec. But who knows? Maybe you sounded like a relative that locked you in a closet as a kid. So you're not going to get hired for that.
That is an odd reference. Yeah, or he has the first name of my ex-husband, and so now you're not going to cast that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So arbitrary.
Absolutely. I do want to say, though, in terms of promo, in terms of Connect the Dots, we're getting a lot of women, which is fantastic, and they're doing such good work. But I do want to say, I'm not sure this has been addressed. Women are killing it in promo. You turn on the TV and watch a promo, and if there is a voice, quite often it's a woman.
I love that.
Yeah. So there are great opportunities for women and still for men. And the diversity is fantastic.
That's great to hear.
Yep.
Jodi, if anybody wanted to reach out to you for more questions about Connect the Dots or coaching or audition direction, anything like that, how can they reach you?
You can reach me. Here's my email, Jodi, Jodi, at JodiGottliebVO.com.
And do you want to spell your last name
spell
just in
Gottlieb,
case?
yeah.
It's JodiGottlieb, as in boy, VO.com.
Love it. Jodi, thank you so much for your time. This has been eye-opening. I'm so glad we got to talk about the world of promo and to just get, connect with you again. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for talking about Connect the Dots, because we all want to connect to the material.
And I hope that promo kind of evolves like we were talking about. So,
I am generally not an optimistic person, but I am, but I am optimistic about it. It's, someday they're going to come to their senses and go, whatever the cost of the breed is, it's worth the investment.
Bobby, that was refreshing to hear. I love the fact that the world of promo, it's not all doom and gloom. I'm glad to hear that Jodi thinks that the VO is going to come back around a little bit more.
Oh, I know. And we're seeing that not just in promo, but like we talked about, commercial and everything. Everything's just changing, and it seems to do that every 5 years or so. So just when you get comfortable, I guess that's why you continue to do coaching, right?
Yeah, you just stay sharp and be ready for those opportunities when they do come around. Thanks so much to Jodi. And we've got a great guest coming up next week, an old friend of ours, Bobby.
Yeah, so talk about a talented person. My gosh, we worked with him in Switzerland. Jordan Reynolds. What did he teach? I know he did the sound-alikes thing, but he also has an audio program, doesn't he?
Yeah, Jordan is so talented. He's a man of many skills, but we were doing the voice match stuff with him in Switzerland. He's also a big-time video game voice. He's also an animation voice, but he also has his Audio Ninja services. Jordan is just super skilled when it comes to tech, and so he's got all those things going on. We're going to focus on video game work, but we'll probably tap on some of the other stuff as well.
Yeah, Jordan Reynolds next time on the... I almost said the Middle Class VO podcast. Next time.
Shame on you, hussy.
Next time on the Making Waves VO podcast.
Presented by Full Compass and FullCompass.com.
We know VO.
We don't know our name, but we know VO. Bye, Bobby.
Bye.
The Making Waves VO podcast is produced by K2 Media Productions with hosts Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobby Maxwell. Sound design and editing by Jason Traver. Production assistance by Lacey Deline. Publicity and social media by Shannon Scott and Silas Phillips. Be sure to subscribe to the Making Waves VO podcast on your favorite platform. For all episodes, merchandise, gear, and more, visit makingwavesvo.com. Until next time, I'm AJ McKay. Keep making waves.